Friends, in Module 8, I also want to touch on biological crises. There's a lot of similarities with technological crises, but I think it's worth noting some differences. Oftentimes, biological crises are putting people's lives at risk, right, of the most vulnerable nature. So you've seen these in our society even today: mad cow disease, swine flu, Zika outbreak, etc., going down the line. Sometimes they're transferred from animals, sometimes they're based in third world countries or even first world countries they come from. So they really range in origin, but the factors at play that are most important are to save lives. Okay, so when you think about preparedness for these sorts of pandemics, pan meaning all, so it could be across the world, is thinking about the infrastructure of health organizations as a whole. How could we continually improve that? So hospitals and governmental agencies and even private pharma corporations are continually should be thinking about how to improve that health infrastructure. The production and storage of antiviral medicine and drugs, and overall to have public information campaigns about vaccinations. Many of us take the influenza vaccination, and that was because there are many, many public information campaigns about taking that vaccination to avoid a pandemic of the influenza. Organizations should really think in preparedness about who's going to be affected and how they're going to be affected, and how the operation of the organization, meaning the health organization, can be affected by these sorts of biological crises. There's a lot of ethical issues that obviously come with saving lives, or the opportunity to save lives, and it's really key in on especially the communications around these issues. So I think it's worth noting. But a biological crisis, you could even take the case of 9/11 being having a biological crisis edge to it, in that should healthcare workers or emergency workers have even responded to that. That's big in the news now in 2019, as we're seeing the effects of that disaster, and people dying because of it. So should they actually report the allocation of limited medical resources? This specifically comes out oftentimes in third world countries, but also when there's a severe outbreak or pandemic going across the world, is how are those resources distributed? Communications professionals have a big role to play in how and why. Remember, as we continue to talk about press conferences, we're talking about clarity, right? Transparency, and often rectification of a situation. So why are only certain people getting that? The key is the messaging and controlling the message. Should more affluent countries help in a pandemic situation? Oftentimes, countries like the United States are called to serve and to play a role in the biological crises. And what is that role, and how does that role actually take effect? And finally is the availability of information. Okay, imagine you and your family, God forbid, are undergoing a biological crisis in a place that you live. The most important thing is that you want to be able to have access to information on what to do and how to do it. This is a lot of the reason why people get the influenza vaccine. Again, to go back to that, to make it more pertinent in our own lives, is because they have a lot of information, and we have known people and seen people who are sick and become very, very ill because of this biological crisis, you could say, or lack thereof at this point, because people have taken the vaccination, at least in major parts of the United States. So these are some things to consider going forward with biological crises. And I think it's just worth noting the differences between the biological and the technological crisis. There's a lot of economic and political factors at play with biological crises, and how that actually can affect multiple publics and stakeholders. But the key is to obviously keep people safe and save lives. And as communicators, you are in control of a very, very sensitive message, and a very serious message that can actually change the outcome of people's sustainability and livelihood. So a little bit on biological crises. Enjoy the week, friends. Thanks so much.